You do. Hello, microphone. Hello, microphone. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Hey. Hope y'all well. Guess what? Next week, assessment's due. Woo! But I think most of you here will be fine because I've been hearing some excellent stuff. So I think everyone present or has already sent me stuff for feedback. Am I not mistaken? So we're at a good spot. You're actually, I'm very happy with you lot because unlike certain people, certain classes at TAFE, on campus, they seem to be a bit more wishy-washy. So I'm more confident in everyone here. So good stuff. That makes me happy. That said, I'll still give you this. So I'm gonna jump on share because it doesn't hurt. Treat it as a review in a way. So share my screen. So this is this is how dire I felt today on campus because if you haven't figured it out or if I haven't told you in the morning 9:30 I teach this class but on campus and I teach another class on Thursday and yeah something was a bit concerning kind of transpired. So what I've done was I created this little thing which it's nice for you to have anyway. So here we go. Let's have a quick look at it together. So yes, recipes, basics. Yeah, everyone present here might be completely fine with this, but it's good to have an all-in-one place sheet for your primary simple sounds. So that's all right. B, it's a good review of certain techniques we've done, just to make it obvious what we've been doing. So we use pitch envelope modulation to create percussive sounds. Surprise, surprise shows up there too. We're just shaping the filter, so filter management, shaping to get hats. Pitch envelope again, surprise, surprise. Filter envelope modulation for plucks, respace, a combination of multiple things. Pads, a combination of multiple things. So, like I said, I'm actually really happy with everyone present, with your sounds. So, yeah, I'm sure you all across this, but this will help if you need like an all-in-one kind of sheet, yeah, to kind of keep in track of. Now, why is that important? Is because those lucky bastards that go to campus, they have access to our hardware. Well, that was meant to be today, really, because today, typically week 13, I take everyone down to the synth room that I'm building. It's not quite done yet, but getting there. And yeah, getting to play with the hardware. And it's kind of pointless if you don't at least have some form of go-to sound to make, at least from one of these, or at least some confidence in shaping your envelopes, working your filters, looking for your modulators. Because if you remember what I say pretty much every week, key concept of making sounds on synth is understanding or being comfortable with modulators. It sounds harder than it is. Like the word modulators makes it sound technical and potentially dry for a lot of people, but it's just shaping envelopes, using LFOs, creating movement. It's how we get sounds to sound good, right? It's how we create musical sounds from seemingly, digital signals. Yeah. Let me get the chat up here so I can see, just in case. Oh yeah, cool. Join. What is it, chat? Missed where that was. So I just put it up on Teams just then, literally just then. So week 13 synthesis principles, recipes, I should say. So this is now in your possession via classwork. So this is just good to have. Now I know these PowerPoints, they look good on the screen and they're look great in classrooms, but if you need to copy and paste it and put it in a text document and print it out somewhere, I'll do it. Whatever it takes to help you. So yeah, it's really cool. So before we talk about hardware, right? And look, I don't want to spend too long on today's subject because if you want to make more headway on your assessments, like you need to do more sounds, you want to send me stuff for feedback, you want to do the report side of things, I'm more happy for you to do that, considering it's due next week, right? So, but we'll talk about this real quickly because getting a handle on the techniques, getting a handle on navigating a synth means that it will open the doors to these type of sounds, right? And they're perfect starting blocks for a lot of other stuff, yeah? So kind of a recap of, if you will, for today is now going into your instruments. Let's go into simpler. We go into simpler. We know it's a sampler, but we should remember that it's based off a synth. So despite having the sample mode, everything else about it is synthesis based. So if we go and look down here, we can see a filter, we can see an LFO, we can see an envelope. If we're not sure what this envelope is, we click over to controls, and we can see it says amp envelope. So whenever I mention VCA or amp envelope, I mean the main amplitude envelope, being the overall sound. Now, if you really want to, and you should, my suggestion is to pull up your plugins and find out where these components are. Find your amp envelope or VCA, right? Find it. So it's right here. Find your filter. Find out if there's an envelope for that filter or if you can send an envelope there. Because why? It's a very traditional combination. So if I click on envelope here, I can see there's an ADSR here that's dedicated to the filter. Good stuff. Yeah. Then I got to remember in this section, there's a cheeky pitch control and a cheeky pitch envelope dedicated to making these type of sounds. Yeah, good. Well, not hats. We don't need pitch envelope modulation to make hats, but for all your other sounds, good, very good. All right, for your other drum sounds. So you shape it, send it, shape it. Okay. Now, if we hop over to the LFO section, we can see we have various shapes, not too many, just simple. That's the rate, that's sync rate. And we got 4 destinations. That's fine, right? Nice and simple. All right, hop over to drift. There's our oscillators. We know it's an analog style synth. It's going to be subtractive. So we go, there's our oscillators. We got 2. Then we can see there's our filter. Now, what's quirky about drift? There's only one direction, so it's only a low pass filter. You can't change this to band pass or notch. Okay. You do have a high pass, so you can kind of fake a band pass, but it's not quite the same, right? So it's low pass mainly, and you can see there's a freak mod. That should instantly tell you this is a modulation destination, which means I can send envelope 1, envelope 2, LFO, key tracking, velocity, mod wheel, pressure, and slide modulators to that destination. And I can do two at the same time, simultaneously. So typically, envelope 2 sitting there doing nothing because envelope 1's dedicated to the VCA, the amp. So I'll just go 2, shape it. Let's get some sound. M4, oops. Give it a second. Give it a second. Am I back? Oh, yep, I'm back. Okay. Now you're not going to hear it because listen to. Okay. You're going to see me squirming a lot because my slip disc is playing up today. It's not pleasant. So if I look uncomfortable on screen, it's because my back is just imploding on me. Where's this? Okay, here we go. Jump on that, please. Oh God, cool. Alrighty, so jump on that. Everyone on? Make sure everyone's on. Yeah. Okay, so playing drift, closing the filter, because we're going to send this envelope to this filter to create filter envelope modulation. And we close it because we're telling it how much to open by. So if I want to open it a little bit more, max, which essentially looks like this, right? Every time I press the key. Now I haven't gone into this because we're a bit more further down, further along with our knowledge now. So what's kind of interesting is that we can reverse it. So it's going this way. Okay. Now not all synths can do that, but Ableton's Drift can. So let's do something more typical. Cool. Tuning my oscillators. Classic pluck sound, which is very useful. So plucks are useful for a lot of things, leads, deadmau5 style riffs. Let's do that actually, let's just do a chord trigger. Distance -12 actually. So you can automate all that stuff or modulate that with LFOs, external LFOs and shapers. But you see, by starting off with a simple modulation, even if it's a typical pluck sound, which, where is it? Where did I put it? Here. Pluck sound. This is just a starting point. From here, you can kind of make it work within your music. Just adding some echo there. progression here. Yep. Yeah. So check it out. Yeah. So I max the sustain on the VCA because I want the kind of the tone without the pluck movement. See, I want it to be at max volume. So let's hear it. Take all the effects off. So if we got no filter envelope modulation, it's just this kind of overall sound, that kind of body to it. So I want that body to be, yeah, at its max before I create this. So you almost kind of create that container first, and then you give it that space to go up and down to create that extra movement, yeah? Let's get this chord going. What do we got? Extended progressions, something simple. Chuck that in there. Watch my volumes. Cool. Hoi. 0, forget the steps. Slow it down. Let's do 1/6. Now what's cool is because you're setting up this kind of classic pluck shape, right? What's cool is that once you kind of have that connection with envelope 2, instead of, let's say, automating this to do this, it's actually a bit more dramatic if you do it like this. And then doing that. So combining something like envelope amount and decay, because that's kind of the same as opening this, but then if you combine this and that, you're creating a more, how should I say, advanced form of developing tone, where it's like, as opposed to da 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 da, like oh dong 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 da 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 da. As you see, this shape is kind of the same. You're going dong 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 down down down. It's like it's a bit more nuanced. So I'll demonstrate it to you. I'll duplicate it. 2 halves, yeah. Color code this. All right. Then we'll go and automate this. Just a typical start very low and crank it up here. Then I'll start this from 0. Do that. And not even smoothing, I'm just doing a linear. And then I'll do this. And by the way, this is not really something I talk in this class, but just in general, when people see my work, they tend to ask about this. But I like to do this. I like to see all my automations stacked up. I don't like them hiding. I'd rather have less tracks, more automation, because it means I'm pushing my tracks more. So typically my music, 12, 14 layers max, but automation lanes 6, 7, because I'm really trying to orchestrate it. And I think, A, that's a personal preference. B, I think I'm maximizing my resources more, and I think that's beneficial to take what you have, take that sound you made and really orchestrate it depending on the sort of music style you want. But I find that fun, first of all, and yeah, you're just being resourceful. So that's just my take on it. Let's see this. Yep. And then this time I'm gonna gotta make sure I close that fill to the same place. And then see my envelope amount decay. I need my envelope amount, which is down here. Oh no, up here. Make sure I can see that too. started a bit low. I might actually just give it a bit of a boost here so you can hear it kind of start earlier. Yeah, it's about the same. So pay attention to the kind of shape of the note. So this one is just standard automation. Let me rename that. Automation of filter. And this one, automation of envelope amount plus decay. So you're essentially doing the same thing two different ways, but one's a bit more nuanced than the other. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is why we should get very friendly with our modulators, even if you're still kind of on the fence about oh, do I need to learn everything about envelopes and LFOs? Why not? It's just there's a lot of benefits, a lot of musical benefits. You're just adding more musicality to the sounds. Yeah. Anyway, so from the plucks, the fact I already set up this filter envelope means I can quickly wield it and make it go a different direction. So let me clear all my envelopes. Okay. Because now let's go for a pad situation. Envelope amount for the distance this travels. But I'm going to reshape this. Okay, let's pull this down a bit. Now, what's interesting about sustain, once you start remembering that sustain is a volume, a secondary volume, you have this extra nuance, because if you just leave it on max, right, but then you start creating different descending levels, you start getting that kind of two-time movement situation. See how it descends a bit? So again, dynamics in the sound, which we can emphasize here with a bit more, but we'll close this a bit. And remember, decay is the time it takes to get to that sustain level. So let's make it a bit quicker, 2 seconds. A lot of movement within that, and it also means if you want to get experimental in a good way, modulate that with LFO, automate that manually. This is stuff that if you had hardware, which is why it's all paths leading to hardware here, this chat, this is the stuff that you hit record and you just tweak, because it's fun and, as you can hear, musical. But because we got the computer, and we probably don't have $2,500 to buy a decent analog synth, we'd get the next best thing, then we'd do it ourselves with Ableton's really good plugins. Anyway, and remember this, maybe you absolutely hate Ableton stock synths. Fair point. Who am I to tell you how to live your life? Do you still talk to those third-party synths too? Because a lot of them, well, the big names, so your UHEs, your Native Instruments, your Arturias, all your typical ones, yeah, Serum, of course. They're well mapped. They're well thought out in terms of MIDI CC implementation, which in English means that this talks to them, right? I'll show you in a sec. So it means this can open, limitations as well. if you encounter any. So anyway, before we do that, let's do this to this. Why not? Let's go Stray, my favorite. Stray is random but smooth, yeah? Oh, I chose Bin, my bad. Stray. And remember, when we add movement in the sounds, remember last week we talked about effects, you enhance the movement, even if it's simple, with good, not good, but precise use of effects. So I'm just adding reverb here. Let's add pitch. Now you hear that clicking? That clicking is due to my attack times being a bit too quick, believe it or not. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a slight delay just to avoid any transient clicks. Smooth. You might encounter this specifically with digitally controlled envelopes, which obviously being plugins, most of them are. But especially with Operator and Wavetable, it's not a glitch. It's just because for some reason we get the benefit of having 0.00 millisecond attack time, which is kind of impossible. So that's why it's going to click. So just give it a little bit of time. It's not at its detriment. It's actually because it's not feasible to have 0 second attack time. Let's do filter as well. Let's do that. Get it moving. Yep. Yeah, it depends on the instrument itself and its role. So if it's a texture, no limit. If it's a riff, then a good balance between predictability, so LFO cycles, versus stuff that's maybe not synced, right? I find that my general rule of thumb is the more dramatic it is, the more amount of movement I have, but typically slower to create that drama. And when I want something kind of rhythmic, I'm either syncing it up or timing it by ear. And I don't go too crazy, but I be intentional. So if it's like a compound polyrhythmic thing, then I'll set up different LFO percussive shapes, different timings, but nothing too crazy, but maybe 2 or 3 different timings. Or just something obvious, like just one timing for all of them, right? And maybe just an unsynced one on a background sound, whether it's like a just maybe a overall filter at a small range, perhaps something that looks like this, just to kind of keep in the ballpark, but interesting enough without being obvious. So that's kind of cyclical, and that kind of is doing that. I might just pull down that max because it's a bit too much for me. There you go. So that's a combination of random and some cyclical stuff, and it's perfect for a pad because you can play that, you can put that in a breakdown of a track, or you can slow the modulations down and do a whole ambient piece texture with it. So it's kind of good to know. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Cool, cool. Like for example, if you think about certain types of techno and definitely with drum and bass, there's lots of movement, but it is all precise. So typically it's a combination of one or two or three types, but there's big section of one type before it's like they turn it to a riff. So it might be jug jug bugga rap bap bap dum 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 ba, da, ba, 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 ba. That's usually quite straight ahead, but everything's kind of like synced tightly to it. Even if there's a lot of elements synced with LFOs, it'd be synced quite tightly to form a riff, a pulse of sorts, you know? Yeah, so it could be interesting. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And in that situation, it's better to go there first, and then you pair back using the amount. Yeah, and then it's kind of like working with reverb for the first time. We go push 100%. Well, why not pull it back down to zero and then blend it in and see how much you can get away with? It's a similar concept. We need to go far in order to know, all right, let's now get into where we need it to be. You know what I mean? The sweet spots. So I want you to do that, and it's good to do that because you know how far it goes, and then you go, all right, let's make it a bit more focused. Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. So you can see the pad movement. You can see this guy may be intimidating some people, but the general pad movement is there via what? We can see it clearly here. Bit of envelope. If I play it with my keyboard, bit of envelope moving by 13%. So it's nudging this way, but it's that gradual 2 second down to 50% sustain level. It has a space to move, and I got this cheeky vibrato via an LFO sine wave, not synced to the pitch destination. Now, so what does that mean? Why am I showing you this? It means, right, we got our oscillators, we got our destinations here, two filter destinations, two pitch destinations, one LFO. Cool. Two envelopes. Cool, right? That's figured out. Now we jump over to wavetable. This section is wavetable's specialty. Bunches and bunches of different wavetables. When you get bored, just chuck in your own audio. But what's nice to know, one VCA, the overall envelope, 2 and 3 doing nothing at first, LFO 1 and 2 doing nothing at first. So that means if I play this sound, it's quite yucky, let's keep it basic. Let's add some more harmonics. Turn it down a tad. Let's add another oscillator just to make it a bit richer. That's fine. That's too samey. So what do? Close your filter. Remember when we touch this, it shows up here. Let's send this envelope to the filter. Oh, it's animating. Great. Let's shape this envelope. And that's with a bog standard filter, nothing interesting. If I change it and add some more character, let's get it's a bit richer. But I got two filters, so what does that mean? I can combine movements. So I got a bandpass mode here. Yeah. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this envelope because it's sitting there doing nothing. And I'll tell it to sweep this second filter like that. So I'll just do it. Instead of manually, I'll send this. Make it a bit sharper. Maybe a bit slower. It almost looks like a wave, right? And even though that's super simple, when we send reverb to that, so that's just envelopes, and it's already moving in an interesting way. Maybe we want to get into more evolving sounds. When I was talking about slow LFO, let's actually do that. So even though I'm using an envelope to move this filter, I'll also get an LFO to move it. But slow. And this is why I was talking about amount. You don't have to have things all the way all the time. Now here's a trick. Be wary of retrigger. So retriggers means that this sine wave LFO will be starting its cycle every time you press the key. If you kind of want it to be really evolving and loosey-goosey, turn it off so it cycles indefinitely. Just a bit hot overall, so just turn my overall down. Unison. Just a bit of that kind of chorus sound. Here's a little trick that I haven't mentioned. Long release time on your amp envelope will kind of make it a bit drony. Just let me give it some more just some more amount here. Actually, no, my filters are moving a bit too much. That steady tone in the background. It's because my LFO is moving a bit too much. Let me pull this back down. Has this more steady tone. Good for your more drony elements. Yeah. So that's wavetable, super flexible. Let's introduce a third party. Let's go Vital. Let's do it. Because Vital's free. So Vital, right? Too many modulation options already. So you shouldn't encounter the problem having a lack of modulation options. But you never know. You might surprise yourself. So let's find something typical. Favorites. Let's go. Okay, and then let's turn on this. Let's go sine wave. 2 sine waves. Why? Because I'm going to create some FM from 3. So envelope 1's default as the main VCA. Right, so let's say I want to, let's just say I don't like Vitals filters for some reason. I do like it, but let's just say you don't. Right, so what I could do is I can open the sound as bright as I can. Oops, forgot to add some spectral. What I can do is I can combine using a auto filter. I never liked the LFO of that, but I can definitely LFO this, map this to that. Let's do saw down. But let's just say you did want to use that filter, but you didn't like the LFOs in this for some reason. So we'll do this. Add some noise. So I'm not going to use the LFO there, I'm going to use Ableton's LFO. How do I do it? I need to go configure. This is move this, configure, move this. And now I can see it as a parameter, which means if I map this to that, I want the other way, don't I? No, I do want this way. Put a sample in there. So this is moving, this is modulating, but I'm actually using Ableton's LFO for that, which should mean some interesting things. So for example, it's just means that you can really get in there and modulate stuff that possibly you're not meant to do. You know what I mean? Anyway, get the point. You can modulate third party, is what I'm trying to say, right? Cool. So hopefully you get the gist of that so far, because now I'm going to talk about hardware real quick. We go back to one of the ye old favorites. Let's go Juno 60. One of the greats, absolute greats. Give me a good picture. It's pretty good. Let's get a clearer picture of that if we can. Oh, that looks all right. Open image, new tab, of course. Click that. Open image, new tab. There we go. All right. Well, there we go. So now, let's just say we were fortunate to be sat in front of a Juno 60. Was it so good? It just sounds good. It's a really rich synth. It has some of the roots from the Jupiter, which is amazing. Very beautiful oscillators, very expressive filter, very simple, but it's yeah. You press a key and you're in kind of magic land because it's the way the oscillators sound. Now, looking at this, before talking about this, before starting this course, maybe you would have struggled to make this thing sound good. Yet, today, with our little recap, you can probably go, all right, what do we have here? This stuff, let's forget about it for now. We can see an LFO, cool. We can see a DCO. Now, if you don't know what DCO is, you can see pulse, sawtooth, another pulse. So DCO should instantly trigger oscillator. Got a HPF, which is high pass filter, a VCF, which is voltage control filter. And you can see that it means it's got more importance because frequency and resonance. This only has frequency. Now, you see VCA. You see ENV next to it, ADSR, good old friend. What's interesting is that we know VCA has something to do with envelopes. On a synth, the VCA is the final output. This synth, there's a toggle for ENV and gate. Why? Because if it's on gate, if you press a key, it will have no shape. It'll just be max volume for the duration of that key. It'll be da, 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 like an organ. But the moment you switch on ENV, this shape starts influencing the output, which is good. So that's how you shape your VCA envelope. You set on to that, shape it. Now, I made a song and dance about how important filter envelope modulation is. That is why there's an ENV slider. In other words, in Drift, where we sent envelope 1 or 2 to the filter frequency modulation destination, this is already set up for us. We just merely have to crank it. What's nice to know is that it has bipolar behavior. So you have this, it will follow that. If you have this in negative, it will follow the opposite of that, which is kind of interesting. Because this is from 0 to 10, which is basically 0 to 100%. Remember, if we were to create a pluck sound, what we'd do is we'd close our filter a bit. This cheeky guy's probably trying to do it too, to be fair. Decay maybe a bit lower than that. Sustain nothing. Release doesn't matter, right? But if I did that and sent it to about here, say, or even halfway, I'll get that same pluck movement, right? Which is pretty cool. Now, what's interesting is you look back at a DCO, you see buttons. So this thing allows us to actually trigger maximum 3 oscillators on at all times. Boom, boom, boom. A pulse, a sawtooth, and another pulse at a lower octave, sub-oscillator. And you can actually adjust the volume there. You got additional noise if you want it, but check this out. Pulse, pulse with modulation. Yeah. Now, how about our LFOs? Well, this synth is, how many years now? 70s, 80s, 20, almost, 40 years old, right? Its strength isn't modulation. That's why we see this LFO. What's the shape? Well, you only get one. It's just a sine wave. You can't change it. At least you can change it from auto mode and manual mode triggering, which means press a key, it triggers this sine wave. Auto mode, it just keeps running in the background. Free running, we call it. At least you have delay time, so you can tell it to start the cycle slower. Remember how we used to do that with Wavetable? And we have a rate, but it's not that fast. It goes, that's about it, right? So its strength isn't modulation. Where can you send it? Well, you can see the sliders here. There's your destinations. So I can send this LFO to filter frequency. I can send it to the LFO, sorry, the pulse width modulation destination, which is kind of sad because I can't send it to the pitch. This synth isn't good at making percussive sounds. Not at all. Its strength is it. Yeah? Yeah, you can't. Yeah, 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 you can't. It's on. It's on. Yeah. So as beautiful as it is, as simple as it is, there's some limitations that might make you go, damn, I wish I could. Like for example, I'm a huge fan of detuning. That's not an option here, which kind of sad, really, right? But what I do have is not something I see in a lot of analog synths. Pulse width modulation, so the width of the pulse, and that being a destination to LFOs to create that kind of sound. That in itself isn't that common, so I'm happy about that, right? So yeah, it's a shame in some respects, but pretty cool in others. Because then you go, all right, why is it like that? It's because limitations of technology. That's how the circuit board was made. It's a limited size. I reckon if they try to put more modulation options, it will cost a lot. And that is the case with its bigger brother, the Jupiter 8. Street price 47K, 40K, 48K if you got the money. Uh, yeah, I don't think a lot of us are in that privileged position to be like, sure, sign me up. But okay, why? What's so special about it? Sounds good? Yeah, you betcha. But what can it do now that I know these things like filter envelope, pitch envelope, blah blah blah, right? So can it do it? Well, let's have a inspection, right? You see my takeaway from this as well, yeah? It's like you kind of will get better and better at looking for the key components of a synth, yeah? It should become a bit more confident in doing so. Right, straight away, VCO1, VCO2, two oscillator instrument. Cool. We can see our filters, right? Ooh, zoom in a bit. Ah, wrong button. Control, there we go. Filter, high pass again, nice. Filter cutoff, resonance, that's your low pass one. We get a slope control, which is similar to drift. Interesting. Straight away, we see an envelope mod, better labeling than the Juno. It's new. It's makes sense. Yeah, it's got more space. Now, envelope one, envelope two. Oh, they're spoiling us. Two envelopes. Great, because it means this one. See these labelings. It starts to make sense. VCA, the final output, it's listening to envelope 2. So that's where you control it. Now, filter, envelope modulation destination. So if you want to do plucks, you can close your filter, set your res to whatever you want, engage some envelope mod, so about here, midway or more. And you have the option to choose 1 or 2. Have it follow your VCA amp or have it do its own shape. Yeah, cool. So remember, the Juno only had one envelope. Jupiter 8's got two. Worth the extra 20, 30K. It's yeah, it's pretty crazy. The street price is getting a bit silly. Now, LFO. Oh, hello there. Sine wave, sawtooth, pulse, random. Now you're just spoiling us. Rate time, delay time, similar. Plus, what's this I see? VCO modulator. So now we're seeing destinations for the pitch of the VCO to make drum sounds, percussive sounds. Cool. Pulse width mod as well. The mod of this one and that one. Yeah. Range control, so pitching the octaves, fine tuning, so detuning of the second oscillator. All right, does that start to make more sense? That should trigger the techniques that that I put in that document today. You start going, oh, okay. So with the Juno before, I'm gonna make cool pads, cool bass lines, cool leads. I'm not going to make anything great percussive wise. Neither has anyone. The synth is known for smashing a beautiful seventh chord together. Oh, how many voices was it? Six voice? Yeah, so even a triad, but you know, seventh chord, boom, and then it's going to sound lovely and lush. It had a beautiful chorus on board. You engage that, it's going to sound amazing. But this synth, it can do that too. And then you got detuning capabilities, so you can make some more kind of off-kilter tuning stuff or power chords kind of sounds as well. And with the kind of options for the pitch of the VCOs to be modulated means pitch envelope modulation, right? I can, even though it's not going to be the same because I don't have an envelope to go there, or do I? Yes, I do. Haha. So this envelope can actually, I can shape this as fast attack, little bit of decay, no sustain, and then I can send an envelope to the pitch of that to create a kick, right? My only kind of problem, I suppose, is this being a true analog synth, I'm not going to see any sine waves here. So unfortunately, I'm not going to make the best kicks in the world because the more versatile kicks, you typically want a sine wave, right? But hang on, you do actually, I lied. So two, you do have a sine wave on VCO2. So why am I kind of presenting it like this? Well, it just takes you to read the labels of a hardware synth or a plugin, doesn't matter, right? We look for our basics. The beauty of plugins is that they make it in a way that is visible and visual in terms of like, okay, what happens if I send it here? I can see something animating. You can follow what's going on. This, you need to figure it out, sure, but it's just a roadmap. It's just an old school directory. So just look it up. Just make sure. And if you do get lost, the manual's there for a reason. Yeah, cool. Yeah, these are lots of fun because you can actually modify the kind of LFO shape a bit more. So this is where, yeah, the Jupiter gets really funky, is that you can actually reshape the LFO and then kind of add bend to it. So this is for the players. So so the bender, typically people think pitch bend, but this you can link it to the LFO cycle and shape. So you can actually manually customize an LFO shape with it. So, which makes sense because Jupiters can do very interesting, like Blade Runner-esque, you know, beautiful, you know. So you would do that with this. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Now let's zoom into today. So something like the Korg Minilog, probably your modern great. Very friendly on the wallet compared to the Jupiter, and still polyphonic analog. So that's good to know. Because remember what analog, the benefit of analog is. It means the oscillators kind of like they live and breathe, and they kind of, their cycles kind of keep running. They're free running. They might actually deviate in pitch slightly now and again. It's a living, breathing thing. Unlike a wavetable synth, a pure digital one, that's accurate. It just goes bang and with no real movement, right? So there's still an argument always for analog. But if you're going to use digital or wavetables type synths, it means that if you don't touch modulation, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for a very sterile, boring sound. So just know what's out there. So I'm going to show you a couple examples. Here's the Minilog by Korg, which is a proper analog polyphonic synth, which is also crucial to know because if you don't pay attention to what's monophonic only or paraphonic, which is a term that suggests that it's got some polyphony but it's fake. Looking at this, it's good to see an affordable, yeah, 4-voice, I believe, synth, which is, for that price, why not? Now, if we look at this, 2 VCOs, here we go. Pitch control, shape control, right? So this one's interesting, the fact that The pitch is quite wide, so when you turn it, it's like, cent, 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 semitone, cent, 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 semitone. So it's very fiddly in a way, but that's kind of nice in a way. You got your set waveform, sawtooth, triangle, which is good to see because it means it can be used as a sine wave substitute, and pulse wave. Octave controls. Shaping is a quirky little thing. It means you can add pulse width modulation, or you can reshape your triangles to get it into interesting modulation tone territory. Sawtooth make it sound even more detuned. Now, mixer, because you got to choose how much you want of each oscillator plus your noise. Filter, one filter control. It's only low pass, which is fine. Resonance. EG. Okay, how about here? Amp EG, cool. So that's the overall envelope. Sweet. Attack, decay, then release. On knobs, simple. EG again. Attack, decay, sustain, release. So that's amp EG. Then this EG, which shows up here again. So you link it up, do your bit of mathematics, and realize, all right, so I can that envelope is for the filter. Cool. Now you got LFO, some limited options because you got those shapes, and more importantly, 3 targets. Oh, not too much. Not too much. That's all right. That's okay. What's interesting though, back over here, I have a pitch envelope, INT. So that's the amount of pitch envelope I can send. So even though I'm a bit sad, even though there's pitch LFO target there, I actually have a sneaky extra pitch envelope in the background, kind of like similar to how Operator does it, that I can send to my oscillators to create kick drums. This is actually a very versatile synth with effects, which is not typical. You have delays there, but the newer versions have chorus reverb as well as different voice modes. It's a truly modern synth, and it's not as big and chunky as the other ones. So yeah, if you just review your basics, you can figure out how to use these things. So it makes sense that maybe in the early days, I said it once or twice, but I'll say it again today. A synthesizer is only really made up of oscillator, filter, modulators as its core principles. The add-ons is the amount of modulators. Other add-ons include sequences, arpeggios, not a given. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And the other thing is the little things like velocity sensitivity. And in some cases, you might see velocity sensitivity in the filter. So there's performance modulation as well. You might see pitch bend if you're lucky, and if you're really lucky, mod wheel. This does not have that. Okay, but it does have what we call velocity sensitivity to the filter, which means the harder you press, the more the filter opens. Right? Just to review that before I move on from that, because that's actually super cool if you do play, or even if you don't play, it's a cool thing to program as well. Two. Pulse width, classic. Close my filter. Matrix, not matrix, MIDI. Velocity to my filter. So I want to send my velocity tracking to the filter. And it's not going to work, unfortunately, unless either I play with a real keyboard, which I don't have downstairs, upstairs I do, or here we go, we'll cheat it a bit. I have a chord progression, I'm going to start low, the next chords start a bit higher, next chord go down, last chord, go higher. Surprise! So you see what I mean? What's triggering this is velocity sensitivity. Now, if you played it, that means you can feel out the keys, smash the keys harder to open the filter more, which is awesome. Or if you want to trick it a bit, you use Ableton's other really cool tools that people don't use enough, your MIDI effects. Well, there's a few, but I'll show you a basic one. Velocity, random, set the low, set the high, so nothing too crazy. Add the arpeggiator, let's do up, down. Let's send velocity sensitivity to the pulse width. Yikes. Might as well do position as well, so I can sneakily change the harmonic to soar and square if I wanted to. Yet I didn't touch the amp envelope at all, right? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's another layer you can add. As soon as I add maybe a second envelope to the filter, I'm gonna have a good time. But I'm essentially using two techniques. So I had filter envelope modulation, which I'm adding now, and then I had keyboard velocity sensitivity modulation to the filter, which is a whole bunch of words. All it means is I'm combining two techniques to add a lot of dynamics to the sound. Let's try this at a faster tempo. A bit too fast. Fun fact, if you really want to get cooking, click that. What happens here? Uh-oh, unison amount. Cool. Let's use a notch. And let's combine another modulation technique of just LFO, simple. I'm going to use my non-clean filters. I'm going to drop my levels down because I'm going to experiment with driving my filters hard. Let's go lower, higher here. this random. Okay. Yet the crazy thing is when we build that much modulation in there, if we take the so-called, super powerful effects like reverb and delay out, it still sounds good. Because the sound itself is interesting. Yeah, might save that. It's like I made that sound before, but I think what I'm experimenting with myself a bit more and I'm enjoying is realizing that, velocity, or more importantly, the expression control is super powerful. So when you start playing around with velocity effects like this, and then you start mapping this to other things outside the stuff that's possible with your instrument. So let's just say third-party plugins or even effects like EQs and vocoders, you can really get into things that sound super interesting. So expression control is kind of like a alternative to LFO and shapes like that. It's more kind of simple because you got this kind of degree of pressure to play with, and you can map it to whatever you like. So awesome, right? Awesome. But that's that's what this is for. Cool. Now, let me just check how we're doing because I don't know if doing. Sorry, Jim. Can you hear my sound now? You're not hearing this at all? Let's see how many people are on. Nope. Okay, let me just send this one. Make sure you got the latest. I think I only did it once, right? But I'll just chuck it in there. But that was the same one. So, yeah. Everyone else can hear this? Should be, right? Yeah. I think you're on, yeah? Jim? Okay. Cool. That's not bad, eh? All right, cool. So, what's the takeaway? Whatever you see in front of you. So let's load up another synth that we have at TAFE. Sub 37 Moog. You figure out your basics. Okay. This very good looking wooden beast. Something about Moogs, they just seem to mean business. It's a serious instrument. But the funny thing is that as much as I like how Moogs sound, I would never own one. It's just, I'll show you why. Cool, let's have a dig. Come on now. Too zoomed in. Zoom it this way. Ugh, it's not great. The glide, the glare, I mean. Cool, that's all right. We'll work with what we got. So the only thing I really like about most Moogs, and there's a lot of them I know, but they tend to have a similar situation, right? The one thing I do love about Moogs is this section. You can see this is your wave, this is your oscillator section. There's two, that's a good start. Octave controls, that's a good start. Frequency control, okay, that's good. We can detune, finally, right? But I have to kind of look around for it. Crafty Americans, right? Now, that's not a switch, that's a rotary control. It's like sweep. So you can sweep between sawtooth, inverted sawtooth, I should say, Sawtooth, a shark fin, which is unique to Moog, and Pulse. So you can actually cycle between shapes, which is really cool. I really love that because that's kind of what wavetable synthesis, digital synthesis does, right? If you have a good wavetable and it's got a good smoothness between all the sounds, you can change the oscillator position. This does that in an analog form, which is cool. Filter, yeah, a Moog filter is like butter. We know that. Sounds great. Why? Because it's got a very wide range, which is cool. And just the way it's designed, very smooth. Envelopes, 2. FA. Go figure. What does that mean, right? Shouldn't be groundbreaking now. Are we able to use the synths at TAFE if we can make it in? Yeah, I mean, let's. If you're around next week on Monday or Thursday morning, come around. Because like I said, we were meant to do it this week, but alarm bells came up with about how behind some of the other students are at their assessment. So I'm going to do it next week instead of this week. So feel free. Totally cool. Cool. So FA filter amplitude envelope. Yeah. Now modulations. Now this is already a lot better than other Moogs, but it's still not what I like really because destination wise, we got wave, we got level, we got the rate of the other LFO, which is kind of cool, I guess. The wave, which is cool, that's modulating the waveforms of the oscillator. That's cool. Noise, okay. Right. Envelope time, yeah, I suppose. Right, so that's all right. But then you got pitch and filter, your typicals. That's it. That's not super flexible. Not really, right? Considering pitch with this LFO, right? I got some standard shapes. I don't have a sine wave, which kind of sucks. And the speed of this isn't even that great. It's not that fast. So it's actually not that useful. Good for like slow shifting things and slow wobbles. Although it's not going to be smooth because there's no sine wave. Kind of sucks, right? So modulation is not this Moog's strength, right? Whereas the reason why at TAFE we got multiple prophets, Dave Smith prophets, it's not because there's a personal preference of any particular teacher, although I am a fan, though I never owned one. Prophet 12. 12 or 6? Which one do we have? Prophet 6, I think. So we got two. Oh, we got two Dave Smiths, and they're two different prophets. Now let's have a look at a Dave Smith synth. Rest in peace. That's good enough, I guess. Yeah. Oh, maybe not. Bigger picture. Found sound. Might be just a bit better. Anyone been to Found Sound in Melbourne? It's a cool store. It's great. So many toys and it's everywhere. And Lewis is a good dude as well. Got many pieces from him over the years. Yeah, yeah, I have. It's really cool. It's really well done. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's an ex Found Sound founder, I believe. I've heard that somewhere too. I don't know, not confirmed because I don't know them personally on that level. I'm just a fan of what they do. It's a proper music store vibe. It's not many of those around. Prophet 6. Why can't I find it? Give me a good picture, please. Come on, you Germans. Do you have any? All right. Okay. This might do. Just need to see one side. So we have this at TAFE, and it's, to me, it's probably the most powerful synth there. Lord knows you pay for it. But okay, let's have a quick look. It's not great. I'm gonna have to decipher this for you. But first off the bat, analog effects, great. So it's like a bunch of pedals in one hit, great. That's a good start. Oscillator 1 and 2. Pulse width, we love to see that. Sweepable shapes, we love to see that. Tune, fine tune, love to see that. Slop, so you're telling me we can make the oscillators sound even more analog by making them shift even more wildly? Yes, you can. Kind of like the drift parameter in Ableton Drift. That's good to know. Now, what else is interesting? Arpeggiator, sequencers, cool. You have a clock, and you can send divisions of the clock, which is not important to you, but important for the modular guys. Now, LFOs, destinations, shapes, plenty, right? How many modulators you got? You got envelopes 1 and 2, plus 3, plus LFO can be switched to envelope mode, which is handy. So technically 4. You have analog distortion. Destination wise, well, let's count it. You got, you can set it. I forget where you do it. No, because I can't see it. It's not a clear picture, but it's a lot. There's a lot more destinations on this, even though it's an analog synth. There's at least 1, 2, 3, 4 there already. Amount plus here. No, it shows up on this section too. Can't see it, that graph. There's a lot of destinations, and there's also another sub menu there. So it's a lot deeper than Moog and Roland combined. So that's why you do see these type of synths used by people like Rival Consoles, John Hopkins. You know, if you know John Hopkins, his music is definitely suggestive of a lot of modulation, and he does it on the keyboard level, which is really good. So Dave Smith's stuff, the reason why for the synth enthusiasts, because that's a kettle of fish as well, a lot of people like him because of the amount of modulation you have, which is literally what that means to you is the amount of things you can do like this, or combination of all of that, right? So definitely, if you don't feel comfortable with this stuff yet, play it. How do you play it? Make these simple sounds, get used to the terminology, and just make. So why? Because it's in the context of our course, electronic music, how important it is. It's too important, right? So if I go to my deconstructions, what haven't I shown you yet? What haven't I shown? Maybe not this. Because I want to show you something that I haven't shown yet. Not like I play it enough for you to remember anyway, but yeah, let me just try a couple. Something dancey and happy. I know you can't hear it yet, but I'm just checking it out, make sure. Yeah, that one's kind of a manual thing, so maybe not that one. I'll choose one and then I'll send you a new link, so give me a second. I think I showed you this. We'll have a look. I might have, but I'm probably didn't show you too much of it, so I'm going to load this up. Let's listen to. New link incoming. And also, I'm in the mood for drum and bass, so too bad. What, something a bit more energetic, right? Cool. Jump on, please. Cool. So, drum and bass music, you might not think of lots of modulation and movement unless it's just in the bass line. This track doesn't really have a obvious wobble, but let's see if we can pick it, yeah? Here it comes.
You started like a Broadway play. The lights on your face can keep up the pace at all.
So, what's kind of good to know if you want to make like club bangers, look how simple the drums are. Well mixed, well chosen samples, whatever, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. Little ghost note. Little fill. Right? Very simple. Now, the synth. If you guessed filter work, you got right. So LFO, set to a trigger, so similar to an envelope, right? To the filter. Watch the movement. Right? Now there's a cheeky little, I wouldn't say advanced, but there's this extra little fin here. So we've done a custom shape, obviously, because we want the note to go whap, 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 whap. So kind of like this kind of loose kind of movement. So you can pick it. And if I play a note and hold it, you hear the cycle. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. Yeah. But yeah, it's simple, but works. And we're using both filters for that to get the low pass to fullness, but then this band pass to kind of focus it on the mids. Yeah. Effects wise, bit of reverb, if any. Actually, I don't think so. No. Oh, we did, yeah. So I've done something slightly tricky where it's like the mix comes in at certain intervals. So it's like going to a reverb, but then straight back to dry as well. So adds dynamics, right? Makes it sound like it's got more dimension. Let's check out the bass. Two layers, because you know, if you make bass music, then you do well to have a mid layer, the more textural one. Let's see how we made it. Look at that. Filter, envelope, just using all the same envelope here. Kind of plucky shape, isn't it? Hardly any sustain, short decay, filter setup. Bong bong. Without it, well, it's not the same, is it? In fact, it's kind of nothing. Back. That's because I'm moving this filter too. Yes, I can use another filter in the effects and move that. Lots of fun. But that movement, it's everything. That's a pluck in this context. Then I got this sub, essentially not doing anything too crazy. Just not so much a pluck, because pluck you use with a filter, filter destination. This, I just set the pluck on the overall shape. But there's a lot of texture for the distortion, yeah. So simple setup, but then when you combine it, super rich, right? So it's not so much a drum and bass specific technique, but in genres where bass is prominent, layering tactics is how you get the most out of bass tones. Speaking of layering, there's these hits. So that happens just to kind of accent the beginning of the bar. So you can kind of hear movement in that, can't you? So that's fast LFO. It's solo, one layer. Kind of interesting that it's very thin, but you can hear that kind of fast movement, whereas the sub layer, more simple. Just saturation really driving it. I'm not using the LFO here, right? If anything, I'm using a bit of filter cutoff to kind of make it sound softer at certain points. Yeah, one little wob, because why not? Now we know what wobs are now. LFO to filter. Now you can typically do a sine wave. This is just a specific sine wave, I suppose, but similar kind of contour. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. And this sound. A classic, which is something I should have put in the notes actually, now that I think about it. But I guess we didn't have to do effects for our sound packs, but classic white noise based effect sound. So I would use white noise and then you sweep it with a filter. So if I took this automation off, delete that. It's just noise, but high res. That's how you get that movement. So you actually use filter, well, you can do it with envelope and LFOs as well. Why not? But if you create filter envelope modulation or filter LFO modulation with a white noise sound, which synths have, of course, you can create sweeps for days. And this is descending because I'm starting from the top. Even though it's a bandpass filter, I'm starting from the top end and going down. Makes it sound like it's going descending. If I did the opposite movement, you can literally hear it going up. It's kind of fun, actually. When you see the mechanics of it, it's actually fairly simple. Yeah. So yeah, in this kind of drum and bass track, there's plucks still, wobs still. The only thing it doesn't have is a lush pad, but that's fine. But you know, you're still using envelopes and LFOs or filters. A lot of filter work. Yeah. Obviously some effects as well to push sounds here and there, but you rarely find a sound that lacks movement in the filter, which makes sense because let's think about the pluck. Why do we call it a pluck? Dong, right? Bong. It's that when you strike a guitar string, it's got that kind of sound, that jangly sound. That jangle is the difference between bright muffled sound becoming bright, and at a short interval, right? So we're emulating that with that envelope shape, and by just that simple movement, we're creating something that instead of going da without any envelope modulation, we take something very static to something very musical. It's much more interesting to the ear. And then we just shape that envelope. If we slow the attack down, decay down, increase the sustain instead, then you can start making more gradual movements. So, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's all applications of the same thing. Yeah. Now, do we have any questions about all that? Hopefully I had my point come through about it's all the same and you just got to look for it on your tools. Yeah. But yeah, any questions at the moment? No, pretty cool. All right, let's skip over to drum machines real quick. It's not something I typically cover, but I feel like we can talk about it in this class. Now, drum machines, what the hell are they? Let's look at one of the popular ones out there. Roland 909, TR 909, I should say. What is it? It's a drum machine. What's a drum machine? It's a robot machine that makes drums, right? Well, yeah, kind of. It's a combination, actually. It's actually quite interesting to me. Probably not to you, but let's do some revealing of this, the sound of house music and a bit of techno, and still sought after this day and age. Street price probably around 10 grand at the moment. So what is it? It's mainly a step sequencer. So you have you just input when you want the note to occur, right? You select which instrument you want to trigger. So you do that by, if I remember, I forget because it's been a while since I used this. Oh yeah, you just hold, is it cartridge? No, you hold track, I believe. Anyway, there it is, instrument select. So you click this, then you press the button and you trigger the bass drum or the snare drum, the low tom, mid tom. So there's some selection of drums. The bass drum, it's got tune, level, attack, and decay. The bass drum, what's behind that little circuit, this panel, is an analog bass drum tone. So it's a sine wave driven bass drum, and you have simple controls to tweak it, just a tune and its envelope, but it's preset. Likewise to the snare, it's also an analog synth voice dedicated to just snare. That's why it sounds the way it does. It doesn't sound like a real snare, right? Same with the toms, they're all analog. The rim shot, the hand clap, the not the hi-hat, but the cymbal, they're actually not synths. No, these are samples. In fact, there's a famous video of one of the engineers behind this machine holding the cymbal he used to record. It was like a Zildjian thing. He recorded a crash and ride cymbal sample. So this is actually a sample. These hi-hats are actually synth based, but not heaps of control. They're just quick. So that's why you can see videos of, Jeff Mills, the exhibitionist, exhibitionist 909. So you can see this guy taking advantage of, I know this might not be audible, but you can, maybe I'll pop the link in the chat. But you see this guy play it like an instrument because there's not too much to work with, right? Which means you have, a good amount of sweet spots if you know this instrument well, and you can play it. So I'll pop this link in the chat if you want to see a very dexterous DJ perform on a drum machine, and he does do that live in front of big crowds as well. So I'll put that in the chat. Where are we? Millsy, all right, legend. All right, so the drum machine, that's the difference. It's technically a synth and very likely to use samples, a combination as well. In Ableton, just so you know, you do have a good analog style drum machine. Although the caveat is if you got Ableton Suite, because you need Max for Live to run it. It runs in the background, but you do have it. So if you go into drums, not drums, you go into, and this is since version 10. They've had this for a while now. So if you go into Max for Live, Max Instrument, not Max Instrument. Where is it? Yeah. You just type in DS actually in the search. DS stands for drum synth. So if I go to kick, I actually have a straight ahead, simplified version of a synth designed to replicate a kick drum. Bet you would have liked this when you were making your sounds in the beginning, right? There's a reason why I'm not saying it until now, because it's cheating, right? I wanted you to make your own kick drums, but moving forward, when you're making your own tracks and you want an analog drum machine sound, you do have one. And it's set up in a way to be easy to use, just like a 909 is. And it's quite versatile. It's kind of helpful. It has advantages of digital technology, is that you can see what tune your kick is. So even though it has a pitch control like a 909, you can see the pitch or what it actually, the key is. So you can actually tune your kicks. Very handy. You also have a snare and a hi-hat and an FM and a... So here's what I've done. I thought, I like this. I wish it was all in one like a real drum machine. So I've quite simply opened a drum rack and dragged in a kick, snare, a couple snares because I wanted to replicate a 909, clap, just all of them into there, just a couple instances of it. So it's ready to rock, which means this. I can go, let's change the tempo. And it means I can make a sequence yay long. 8 bars is a bit too much, but let me get out of that. Let's do 4 bars. Down a division, loop that. Cool. So because I put in the drum rack, I just need to make a MIDI clip and I can see every note here. Let's make it a bit smaller. Zoomed in a bit too much for my liking. Here we go. Cool. So I can go, okay, kick. So I got, the reason why I have 2 snares will be obvious in a second, but let me just program something real quick. Boom. Cool. And okay. This one's a bit quirky, but I'll get to that. Oops. Okay, something simple. And that sounds quite horrible, but you'll see in a second the benefit of using a drum machine, so to speak. I can hit play, let it run, and then I'll click on the instrument. So I put all of the drum synth stuff in here. This is a quick and easy FM drum machine, which is, you don't see that on analog drum machines at all. Yes, the benefit of the drum machine is either I can record it, map it to a MIDI control, like in real life, and just record that. I've got to remember to put this on, sorry. MIDI overdub. Record that. Go back to this one. Hey. Kicks themselves. Let's make this more repetitive so it moves around a bit more. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. That might be a bit messy. I'll get it. Boom, down, down, boom, down, down. Where am I placing that? On the... There we go. Get rid of these. So yeah, a very playable, malleable tool, as you can see. Let's record it. Or let's use LFO. Why not? Because it's made to be controlled. Here we go. Random. Once you have it all set up, because it's in a drum rack, even though it's an analog drum machine, we can quickly give it a certain sound by playing around with effects on the whole rack. Cabinet. Make it sound like it's going through a speaker. Interesting. Yeah, get the point. So again, if you feel like you need to get stuff, you want to, feel like you're missing certain things in Ableton, you're not missing too much. What's this? Oh, what's this? eBay. Yeah, why so pricey? Because of collectors. The 909. It's fascinating because they came out. The 909, was that a failure? I think it was okay. It wasn't a commercial failure, but then when they came out, they weren't that expensive. But of course, when you have enough absolute legendary tracks written on a 909, if you think about Orbital, Jeff Mills, you think about Marshall Jefferson, Larry Heard, the beginnings of famous dance tracks. You're going to have people going, well, I want to be like my favorites. I want to be like my heroes. So what did they use? I'm going to buy that because it's the same as, guitar playing is like, I want to sound like the next John Frusciante. I want to sound like the next Stevie Ray Vaughan. Well, I'm going to be leaning towards getting a Fender, like getting a Stratocaster, right? So it's the same as synths. People will chase what they see, what they know, and they might not know enough to go, well, it's not so much the 909 being special. It is special in certain ways in terms of its kind of perfect match of simplicity and instant good sound. But, if you want that workflow, which is not for everyone, Behringer, as horrible as a company as they are, I'm not a fan at all. Very questionable. At the very least, they do an analog 909 copy, because that's what they do, for how much? $4.99, right? And it sounds pretty spot on. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, fine. But is there a benefit from getting a physical drum machine besides it being fun? No. I can't say so. In fact, I've done, just in that little jam, I've done a lot more interesting things that drum machines can dream of, right? The only ones that can get close are digital drum machines or hybrid drum machines like the Electron Analog Rhythm. And it's not super cheap, but cheaper than an old 909, but $3,300 for a drum machine that has analog voices and digital voices and sample handling. Why isn't it showing me? Images. And what makes it more interesting, that's an old one, here's a new one. It has a sequencer that destroys Roland stuff, like each step can do something different, and it's got interesting effects. So it can do stuff that I was doing with a lot of click work, right? So if you wanted certain notes to have reverb, so like let's just do something that the Electron does well. Map this dry, wet, make it random and steppy, cyclical. Can do things like that. But the knowledge that we're applying modulations and being brave Ableton allows us to do it with what we have, provided you have Suite. That's why Suite makes a lot of sense. It is a step up from intro and standards, a big jump up, but in theory, you do have every effect you need, crazy amounts of modulations that can open the world up for you, a very, very good drum machine that's analog in its behavior. When I say analog in behavior, notice the kicks don't always sound the same. It doesn't help I got all these effects, but let me take all these off, group them up, bypass. Like every sound is just slightly different to the last one. It's consistent because it's digital, but it's also not. Some notes spike a bit harder. Yeah, that's an instrument, right? That's a drum machine. It's not a sample where every sound is consistent, right? This has got a bit more life to it. Ooh. Ah, don't want a hot swap. Anyway, get my point. Use your stuff. If you have Suite, explore everything. It's very good. Anyway, hardware synths and drum machines, it's not something you're missing out on. They do offer a lot of fun because they get you away from the computer. They are fun, but they don't offer any operational advantages, except for the fact that you can get both hands on the device. That's it, really. Do they offer any sound advantages? Not necessarily. A lot of them are, digital synthesis anyway. Like a drum machine I really like, but I will never buy because I can make the same kind of sounds. It's what I would buy if I get stupid money, when you're maybe signed to a big label, when you sell your soul. I don't know. I won't get into that. But if I get a lot of money from music, then sure, why not? But I'm not at that level. So this drum machine, it's a digital drum machine. If I wanted to do exactly the same thing, then I'll need fair few different drum synths and modules to get the same kind of sound and behavior. You spend about $4,000, you can get all of that in one box. That's kind of fun. But then I got to plug it into every output into every input on my interface. Oh, hang on, my interface only has 4 inputs. This has 6 outputs. Damn. So that's a bummer. So I can't get the advantage of using a drum machine. So it throws up a lot of issues, hardware. But it's fun. It's an instrument. So if you look at my kit list, and this is just a little insight, right? If you just look at my setup, I still have some Elektron gear, but I'm not using it a lot, so I took it off my list. I did get the Ableton Move, which might seem like a weird thing for anyone to buy, right? Now, I'll tell you this, as a piece of standalone hardware, near useless. 4 tracks, it's standard Ableton presets, nothing special. Buttons, the pads are okay, functions as keys as well. Doesn't offer any advantage of what Ableton offers in the box. But why did I get it? Well, it's nice to have the option to have a very slim controller, to have a silly no heavy commitment jam. So that's kind of fun, I guess, right? But as soon as I plug into my computer, okay, now I don't need a keyboard because I have 32 triggers. I can kind of play melodies. Then this is instantly mapped to my macros. So when I load up my presets, right, let's just say something like this, or maybe like that. Where's the ones with racks on them? I haven't quite done too many yet, have I? Oh no, I have. Retro pewter, something like this. So I got racks, right? Because I got the macro set up, customized, if I plug this in, these 8 controls are automatically mapped to that. So I can just literally play some notes and then just cycle through these parameters I made. So it feels like an instrument. So to me, Ableton Move was a slightly expensive way, but a slick way to convert Ableton to the software to feel like a hardware. So I can get 2 hands playing, play some notes, do some note repeats, do some glide, velocity tricks, yada yada. So that's why I got it. I say it's expensive because you can kind of do the same with a Novation Launchkey Mini with the same amount of keys for $200 as opposed to $700, right? But then I have the option that the Novation can't do, which is it fits my bag. 2, can be on the couch. It has a speaker and a microphone in there. I can yell nonsense into it and then turn it into a dumb idea. That's fun, right? So for me, it's like hardware. It's got to be something that you find fun, that fulfills what things you require from it. I love Ableton sounds. I know how to get sounds to sound good out of them. I've now refined my sample library, so I know exactly what's in what. I've done it, everyone. I've trimmed all my drum sounds down to under 128 max. It's actually 111 at the moment. So at one point it was what, something crazy. It was like 3,000 kick drums and 7,000 snares and probably even more cymbals. I lost count. It was too much. I know for a fact that I had 6,000 percussion hits. It's now down to 49, 17. So I've gone in and listened to all these sounds and just kept the ones I always use and love, which means now that stuff is on a piece of hardware that I can take with me and make stuff that I feel good about. So that's my justification for it. A hardware synth, I don't know. You got to be into that synth itself. You got to know that it feels comfortable to find all the sections. Drum machine, it's hard to justify. A hardware sampler like a MPC, very hard to justify because you can do the same with a computer. The only real argument is if it makes you feel good having one. That's all. Right? Does it help you make more music? I don't know. It's hard to compete with a DAW program to compose and finish music. If you're struggling with the output, maybe you just got to find different skill sets to help you with that procedure. Like for me, I know how to make great sounds. Arrangement, no, I'm not great at that. I tend to keep it simple, nothing groundbreaking there. It's not my strength. And what's my real weakness is I really lack music theory, right? So if I work on that, it might help me make something a bit more stronger technically in terms of theory, but then I can back it up with some cool sounds. If I can get better at arranging, I can finish more music, have more interesting compositions. I'm not gonna be sad about that. It's just the reality of it. In fact, it excites me so that I know what to work on. So sometimes it just takes you to figure that out. It's not important about what plugin to get, not important what hardware to get. It's not going to make you an amazing musician as soon as you grab it. You know what I mean? So really think about these things. Think about your sample library. Feel free to hone in your sound on that. If you don't know it yet, then make more music and pay attention to music you like, what characters you're into. You know what I mean? Anyway, going on a rant now. Any questions? Any questions at all? Any comments? Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so everyone just remember the sample packs are due next week. So expect submissions to be done by, is it the end of next week? I forget. Friday or Sunday, I forget. So I can't remember if everyone's asked me sounds for feedback yet. I think most of you did, but if you haven't, hit me up soon. But so far from what I've heard from everyone, I'm very happy with. You guys are great. You guys are really good. So I'm very happy with that. And just do more. I'm sure even in your own music, you finding this kind of interesting little edge you have with your sounds. I'm sure of it. It kind of opens a lot of doors and possibilities. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. But yeah, if you have any other questions about the sounds themselves or you struggle with anything particular, let me know. But yeah, hopefully everyone has no issues submitting your sounds. Okie dokie. But yeah, next week we're going to switch up and go back to sampling in a different way. We're going to talk about Ableton Sampler, not Simpler, Sampler. It gets a bit crazy. But yeah, enjoy your week. Losing my voice. Until next time, see y'all. I'm just gonna stay for gym. All right, thank you. See ya. See you, Nick. Thank you. Jesus Christ, Jim. Oh, sorry. Gotta be quick, yeah. So let me turn on your mic. Here we go. What's up, mate? Hey. I was going okay until this morning. Definitely a bit rough day. Back is my slip disc has flared up. Something weird in my voice just then. And my little boy woke me up at 6 a.m., which normally I wake up at 8 a.m. So that didn't help either. So yeah, interesting day. Interesting day. How about you? It is what it is, but we just have to hope that he'll get better because he's been iffy with his sleeps all week. So it could be just a trend. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.